And it's on air. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Stoos in Action. I want to introduce to you our host for today, Kristian Haugaard.
Applause! Fellow Stoosians, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it seems hard to believe, but I think we are live now on air. Only about 2 hours late, so we're going to find somebody at Google to lay off, but that's another story. We want to warmly welcome you to Stoos in Action, and thank you for taking your time to join us. Thank you for sitting so long and waiting for us. We've been waiting for this for several months, and now it seems as if it's actually happening. Let me just get a few words on, are we live over there? Does it seem good? Okay, so we have sound but no pictures. Okay, wonderful. Then I can tell you, at least I guess people can hear me now, I can tell you that we are relying heavily on your interaction in this conference. It means that we would like to see you participating on Twitter, and I have some information for you here. There are several ways of doing this. For those of you who aren't doing it yet, please follow Stoos in Action. It's a Twitter account, and from here we will be broadcasting messages from the organizers. Also, as many of you have been doing so far, please use the Stoos in Action hashtag when you tweet. Your tweets will appear on our website, and we can gather it all in one place. You also have the opportunity to email us at stoosinaction@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments and need any help, we will closely be watching that inbox. And if you're lost in the wilderness without anything but a cell phone or a mobile phone, you can text SMS a message to a Danish number. The Danish area code is 45, as you can see, and then it's 27123887. We have Louise here ready to watch her phone for incoming messages. And yeah, later on today we'll be trying to do the open space, and that is going to be a social experiment, and it's going to be a big social experiment, and Ron from the organizer team will guide us through how that's going to work later on.
As Kristian is saying, this is an interactive event, and let's start right away, people out there. So we want you to tweet your mood, your morning / afternoon / evening mood, wherever you are. Tweet to the Twitter hashtag Stoos in Action. Tell us where you are. Give us a number from 1 to 5 how you feel, and give us a few words on what, why is it a 5, or why are you so happy it's a 5, or why are you down on a 3 or something. So tweet away, and we'll just let you tweet. We'll be quiet for 30 seconds, and take it away, and then we'll see what we're getting in here. Thank you.
Ja. Den er død. Er det ikke det? Alrighty.
We know what we're doing here in the in the headquarters. We have a few tweets here. One that's a little sad. Deb is saying that the butterfly room is empty. On the webpage stoosinaction.dk, you have a link to the to a butterfly room. It's actually a phone conference where you can go if you don't know what else to do. So it's a place to be active and hang out with other people and have discussion about leadership. So that's that. Nadia, she's wonderful, one of the speakers, saying smile and wait. So we'll keep doing that. What do we have here? Stoos in action. Italy is active. We have Rome working on their blackboard and started early without others, so that's just wonderful. And we have from Cocoon Projects, I don't know where they are. No, that's the Italian people. So we have several people around the world following us now, so that's just wonderful. This movement, the Stoos movement, is all about leadership. And I like the way that some of the early Stoosians put it. They talked about the global management warming, which is, I guess, a very sad thing in the crisis, rather than finding ways to sort of really get people to use their full potential. We start putting control structures in place. I want to tell you a little story about that, about good leadership and bad leadership. I think most of you are familiar with the thing that happened in Italy with Costa Concordia. I think it's a year and a half ago or so now. Bad leadership was a captain. People around him knew what he was doing was wrong. He got too close to those rocks. Some said it to him. He chose to ignore them or had them shut up. Others didn't want to tell him because, you know, they had learned the hard way that the leader is the one making the decisions here. So no reason to try to interfere with that. An example of an opposite example is one of the crew people. His job in a crisis situation was to hop in the lifeboat, get as many people as possible in the lifeboat, take them ashore, and get them on land and get them safe. That was his job. What he did was he did that once. Then he took the lifeboat back to Costa Concordia, and he did it again. And he took another batch of people back to the shore, saved their lives, and he did that several times. While Costa Concordia was leading more and more and more and more, and he was down here in his little boat, and he put his own life to danger. So why did he do that? Not because of the leadership on that boat. What he did was great. What we are looking for with leadership is greatness, and ways to create that. For leaders to create environments where people are great and have room, and there's an atmosphere where this is a natural thing for people to do. So that was a little story about Stoos, the Stoos movement and leadership. Back to you, Kristian.
And talking about leadership, I mean, the Stoos movement is not a central organization that tells people what to do. So a little bit about this conference. Early on this year, we participated in Stoos Connect, hosted by our great friend Erwin van der Koch, who's right now down under in Australia. Hey, Erwin, I know you're watching us. And one of the takeaways from that conference was that somebody hoped this would be a movement of movements. So we thought the idea of things just popping up by themselves is wonderful. So why don't we just make something pop up in Copenhagen? And that's really how simple it was. So we decided to do something, and now we are here. We are focusing on Stoos in action, which means we are bringing you people, thought leaders, leaders who are doing the stuff that the Stoosians are preaching, who has the values deep within them, and we're going to meet them. So that is what this conference is all about. We want to run you through the program now. So let me just show you here. Here we go.
And the program, running 2 hours late, pretty much on the clock, 2 hours late. We are doing the welcome, and after that we will have the speakers. We have 5 speakers lined up, and for each speaker session, which is 45 minutes, we will have an introduction from the speaker, 10-15 or so minutes, and then during that talk and after that talk, we're inviting people to tweet, send us mails, as Kristian just talked about, and then we'll have a live dialogue. the speakers will answer the questions, and we're also actually able to bring some of the people asking questions online, on air. So that is really great. We're starting with former nuclear submarine commander David Marquet. He's going on a little bit with his leader model. After David, Nadia Petronovskaya, originally from Russia, now living in Germany and working in Germany, will go on and tell her story about leadership project in an Airbus. Very interesting, good stuff. After Nadia, we have Alexander Kerov. He is Mr. Joy of Work, and we are very much looking forward to hanging out with you, Alexander. Pauliana Pixton is known for her collaborative leadership model, and she will be the next speaker. And after that, Bo Burlingham, who wrote a book with some other people. The name of the book is Small Giants, Companies That Chose to Be Great Instead of Big. Interesting stuff. After that, we are on to the real big social experiment, which is an open space worldwide based on all the social media. We'll start with half an hour introduction and marketplace, where you can all talk about what you want to talk about. Put in your subjects, and then we have ways for you to join people from other places in the world and have a discussion about that. At the very last thing we're doing is to have a perfection game. So a little feedback session on how was this one giant big experiment. So we're very much looking forward to that.
At this point, I just briefly want to send a huge thank you to the organizer team. We couldn't have done this without all you guys, and I want to mention each one of you very shortly. I want to thank you, Deb Preuss, for... Oops, I'm going over here. I want to thank you, Deb, for helping us and bringing in a tremendous amount of energy into this conference. Thank you, Deb, for being such an energy bomb. I want to thank you, Louise. She's been working in the curtains. She's everywhere. She's an octopus. Right now, she's monitoring the inbox, and she's helping us with the website. She's just making things happen. Right, then of course I'm gonna thank Ole, this guy over here, my colleague and partner in crime. Oops, that was myself. I want to thank you, Donna, for setting up the Google on air. And thanks to you, Donna, today we actually managed to get through. So thank you for hanging in there. It has been invaluable. I want to thank you, our friend Hans, whom I met at Agile Coach Camp, for being all present all the time and coming with great ideas. Thank you, Hans. I want to thank you, Eleanor Slumba, who is in the United States at the moment. Eleanor is going to be our reporter in the field. She's watching the Twitter stream and making sure that all the questions that you ask using the Stoos in Action hashtag will be sent in to the speakers during sessions. So keep tweeting, and our reporter, our second energy bomb, will help us bringing those questions to the speakers. I also want to thank Steve, who joined us in the very last minute and going to do the perfection game later on. I haven't spoken to you, Steve, since all of this, so I hope you're out there and ready to help us. And also, of course, I want to mention Sander. Sander, without you, I think we wouldn't have kept up our promises today, or kept up our hopes that we would go on air, actually. So thank you for helping setting up the on-air channels as well. And finally, I want to thank Ron for joining the organizer team. Ron is going to help us, as we said, with the open space, and let's just have a few words on how that's going to work now. Over to you, Ron.
Yeah, hi there. This is Ron. So we're going to do the open space at the end of the sessions, after all the speakers, and the idea is that once we are in the open space, we're going to start discussing difficult things that we see that we need to solve, problems or discussion points. So what can happen is that once you start being present in all the sessions with the speakers, something pops up in your mind, and you think, hey, maybe this is a nice thing that we can do in an offline discussion. Gather those things and how to deal with that is actually quite simple. I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to share my screen and go to the Stoos website. There we go. There's Stoos website, and we have here the open space marketplace where you can click on. If you go there, I was already there, go down, and there we have a Google Doc that can be filled in, and because it's public, everybody can leave his sessions here. So what you can do is fill in your name of the topic after the topic, then fill in your name here, your email address, and we know how to set up later on an open space session together with you. What you can also do here in the second column is place your votes. So if you scroll through the list and you see nice things coming up here, just put a cross in there, like I'm doing now. And I'm going to remove it because I don't want to influence the session, but that's what you can do there, and it's saved to the website, and it's also visible on the website once you vote that. So, okay, what we will do is we'll use this list later on to fill the slots of the open space, and please fill them in, go to the website, and I'm thankful for that. So later, some more explanation on what the open space is doing. For now, this is it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ron. So, and we are happy to see that we actually already have proposals in the document. So go to the website, click dashboard, there's a sub-menu saying open space, and you'll find a link to the Google Doc. And just keep putting in suggestions for sessions. So it's time to move on with the official program. I am now handing over the word to Ron and David Marquet. Take it away, guys.
Great, thank you very much. And welcome everyone around the world. It's really wonderful for me to be here. Actually, I came here, it's very unlikely that I'm here, having been a captain of a nuclear-powered submarine, which is probably one of the most controlling places on the planet. And as a reformed control freak, I can tell you that what you're doing, the revolution that you're doing in terms of allowing people to control their own lives, the belief that everyone has the ability to be great inside of them, and creating environments where we embrace the greatness that's in the potential greatness inside everybody is really the way to go for the future. The problems we have on the planet are just way too big to have some supposed set of experts dictating from on high what the rest of us are going to do. So I'm just going to tell a very short story about sort of how I got here, and then Ron and I are going to open up and have a conversation, an honest conversation about what the barriers and the problems are with organizations, especially the ones that are attempting to move in this direction. So as I said, I had the privilege of commanding a nuclear-powered submarine. I trained for a year for one particular ship, and at the very last minute I was transferred to another ship. It was the worst performing submarine in the fleet. The previous captain quit, and oh, by the way, it was a different submarine than the one I'd been trained for. So I walk on board my submarine that I'm about to be the captain of, and the equipment looks foreign to me. I don't recognize the gear. And so I'm asking the sailors, hey, tell me how this works. I actually had a mindset of curiosity for really the first time, because in the past I'd always known the answers. And the sailors would say, well, you know, this does this and this does this. I said, what about that up there? The sailors would say, well, you know, I don't know, Captain. We don't usually touch that button. And, you know, I jokingly say, well, you know, push it, see what happens. But we didn't do that. But I was rewiring my brain to be curious. And what happened was, after I took command, I gave an order to my crew that could not be performed. It was essentially the equivalent of asking someone to shift into 6th gear on a car that only had 5 gears. And my crew, the officers tried to do it. They ordered it, even though they knew it couldn't happen. We were like the Costa Concordia story that Ole talked about at the beginning. If I said something, my crew was going to do it, even if it was wrong. And I had this realization that everything I thought I'd been taught about leadership, my images from popular movies, was basically wrong. My image was that leaders took control, exerted influence, made it happen. And it was all about doing stuff. Leadership wasn't about thinking. It wasn't about embracing the greatness in other people. And so I flipped my head, and we started practicing all these things on the submarine. I stopped giving orders. So as the captain of a submarine, you can imagine watching the movie where the captain just walks around and basically never gives an order. And my guys loved it. They were off to the races because instead I would give intent, and they would take that intent, that organizational intent, what are we trying to achieve here? They would match it up with their technical competence, and they would decide what we needed to do, and they would tell me, so they would give me their intent. So a lot of what we did, and it's all laid out in my book, but a lot of what we did was simply change the way we talk to each other, change the way we listened to each other, change the way we dealt with each other. And although it sounds very simple and really shouldn't work, it was amazing. And we went from re-enlisting 3 sailors in the Navy, which put us at the bottom of the fleet. The very next year, we re-enlisted 33 sailors. People love it. They don't, and they were working harder. You could argue that they were working harder, so re-enlistment should have gone down. But people aren't afraid of hard work. What they want is work that's meaningful, that they can be involved with, that they can control to some extent. And when you give people that, stand back, because they will create amazing things.
David, one question from my part. How did you pull that off with your superior officers? Because at some point in time you started doing things differently. So how did you do that?
Well, so here's what happened. They basically didn't know what we were doing. When they tell you, hey, you're now in charge of the worst business unit or the worst submarine or the worst whatever in the fleet, it can't go down. So I was given marching orders, go down, fix it. And what happened was, as I started giving my guys control, performance started to improve. We started doing better on inspections. We started getting underway on time. The equipment that we fixed stayed fixed, didn't break again. And so my bosses saw that, and they were happy. What they didn't see was the real power of this, which is what happens 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years later, because instead of having a group of people that was just knew how to do what they were told, we were actually creating additional leaders. And so this is one of the things that I think is sad. You know, we have Dilbert in the office, and people love to make fun of silly bosses, and much of it's justified. But you know, I see coders now today. It's like, look, I don't want to be a boss. I don't want to be a leader. That's not cool. That's just about telling people what to do. But I want to change that dialogue. I want these young, intelligent, proactive people to say, you know what? What's cooler than helping other people find the greatness within them?
So what you're saying is actually everybody became a leader on your ship.
Correct. When we started, we had 1 leader and 134 followers. We ended up with 135 leaders.
So what did that to your position then? Because if everybody is this leader, what were you doing at the end?
So you can imagine it might be chaos, but it's not chaos. What you get is distributed decision making with organizational unity. So what my job was to understand and communicate the intent. Not the specific, hey, drive the submarine here, or load a torpedo in 2-2 now, but just convey intent, and then stand back and ask questions. Another way to think about it is I controlled the system within which we operated, but the individual operational decisions within that system were made by the team. So, for example, I was very upset one day when I discovered that we had basically had a guy stay up for 36 hours when he really didn't need to, and the reason was because the senior guys in the organization had put themselves in a position where they didn't have to stand a lot of watch, so they were getting a lot of sleep, and the junior guys were going on and off watch very frequently. And so I just made the rule that the senior people couldn't be in any better rotation than the junior people. I never approved the watch bill. I never said so-and-so is going to be on watch and so-and-so isn't going to be on watch. But in essence, I controlled the system. So it's not like there's a lack of control, but the control is focused on creating the environment.
Okay, so you're giving them guidelines, but they're doing actually the filling in of the guidelines. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think it's like a two-handed dance, because on the one hand, the leader needs to be able to give up control, and in a lot of ways, they gave a lot of control. There were some things they didn't give up control on, like the way we started the nuclear reactor. We weren't going to have to create new, ideas for that. No one's interested in that. But there's a lot of stuff that we can be very creative about, how we talk to each other, how we listen to each other, and all that kind of stuff. So the leader has to be willing to give control, and the subordinates have to be willing to take control, and with it, the responsibility for making decisions.
Okay.
Was the poor performance of the ship prior to your change in management approach due to the management style before you came on board, or were there other reasons for the poor performance?
At the highest level, it was exactly due to the management style that's not only on that submarine, but on every submarine. Because the management style that we have closely couples, because it's a personality-driven management approach. And so, in other words, the performance of the organization is closely coupled with the performance of the captain. If you get a guy who knows everything, and he's going around giving instructions, the ship will perform well. Not great, but the ship will perform well while the captain's there. If you get a captain who's not as good, or a leader of a company that's not as good, they will give orders and instructions, and they won't, and the ship will start to flounder. That's not the problem. It's just like on the Costa Concordia. The problem isn't that. The problem wasn't that Captain Schettino made a mistake. That wasn't the problem. All humans will make mistakes. The problem is that we had a structure in place, a top-down hierarchical structure, where when a person makes a mistake, and it's 100% guaranteed that someone will eventually, because it's ordered at the top, the probability that anyone down the line is going to stand up and say, hey, I don't think that's good, I don't think that's right, Captain, it's very, very, very unlikely. Especially in the case of Costa Concordia, where basically all the senior officers came from the same hometown as the captain. So you can figure out what happened there. But the issue is, we know people will make mistakes. How do you create organizations that are tolerant of those mistakes and resilient in the face of those mistakes? And the answer isn't just make people smarter and hope that they never make a mistake. It's distribute the power so that people can say, hey, that's a mistake.
In your new system of management, did you find a high degree of peer regulation whereby colleagues would correct each other's mistakes if they noticed them?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm a big fan of, don't give a speech about, hey, thou shalt correct each other's mistakes. You need some sort of a mechanism or a tool to make that happen. So in our case, because a lot of what we did involved like physically putting your hand on a switch and moving it, and saying I'm gonna move this torpedo outboard, or I'm gonna shift the pump to fast, and that's where the mistakes would happen, because people would just be confused in a crisis situation. So what we call the deliberate action, which is I would put my hand on the switch and I would announce it, shifting pumps to fast, shifting number one reactor coolant pump to fast, and if by accident I had my hand on the switch for number 3, because I paused right there, the guy sitting next to me would say, hey, you got your hand on the wrong switch. But absent some sort of mechanism like that, we just hope people step in, and it doesn't happen. So the trick for businesses is to say, well, what's the behavior we want? And then what's the mechanism that causes that behavior to come naturally, to make it easy to behave that way?
Right.
Okay, got a nice question from someone in our satellite. He asks, did you train your senior officers to act in the same way that you did?
Yeah, and this was really the power of the whole thing, because they saw me stepping back, they saw me being curious, they saw me asking questions, they saw me just providing intent. My officer would say, well, where do you want me to drive the submarine? And the old me would say, drive here. I put my finger on the chart. Well, that's top down, and the new me would say, well, what are we trying to achieve here? And then we would talk through it, and then they would say, oh, well, I think you should drive here. And I'd say, drive there. Okay, great. And so so they loved it. And so what happened was on my submarine, 10 years later now, 10 of the officers who worked with me have been promoted and been captains of their own submarine, which is a tremendously high proportion. If it were a random event, it would be a 1 in 100-year event. And I think the reason is because they were thinking like captains, they were thinking like leaders way back when they were 23, 24-year-old junior officers on the submarine. And that's the power of what we do here. It's not when I leave, the submarine performance crashes. I mean, we all like that, right? Oh, John just left and the business unit just pummeled. Wasn't he? You know, we really need John. So psychologically, that's very psychologically appealing. Oh, they needed me. You have to break that.
Okay, so what you're saying now also, if you look at the situation now in the fleet, are they still using this way of working? Is it embedded now, or?
You know, I say they're doing it, but they don't know they're doing it, because what's happening is they're promoting a lot of guys from the Santa Fe, and they're bringing it forward in their own personal way. So it is sort of a moving in as a grassroots movement. The Navy's actually, I got some good news recently. The Navy's actually considering adding my book to the official Navy reading list. And I had a chance to talk to the guy in charge. He said, "You realize I actually tell people to think here, right? Not just do what they're told." So I might have torpedoed myself there. I think it's crossed.
Okay, that's a good one. So what I like about your story is indeed that you have been able to do that in one of the most hierarchical organizations that's been out there. So if you look at the software development, we have similar problems. And we talked before this week, and you know something about the software world now since you've been writing this book. So do you see similarities between what we are doing and what you are doing there as well?
Yeah, totally. In fact, now I'm in Manhattan. I don't know if you can see behind me this skyline, but and I'm spending a fair amount of time with this tech startup, and so I'm getting a little bit of I'm getting to see what happens there. But I think the software guys are way ahead in this, because, you know, it would be the equivalent of telling a coder, okay, move your mouse left, move it right, okay, put a close bracket there. You know, you can't do that. So they've had to, or we have had to grapple with that early on. So when I first started learning about Agile from Go Agile and the guys in Denmark, I was like, holy smokes, these people are, they're way ahead. They're already doing it. They have a set of principles, and it seems kind of strange to say software coders, nuclear submarine do the same thing, but the common framework is it's people. It's getting people to think. It's giving people the space to achieve greatness from within. And if that's your framework, then it's all the same thing.
And one of the things that, of course, you were the commanding officer on the boat, so for you it was easy to start with a change like this. But yeah. What do you suggest when somebody in the bottom of the organization likes to change something like this? How should we approach that?
Yeah, so that's really, really hard. And I think one of the problems a lot of the Agile guys have is within the coders, they're doing it and they understand it. But then as soon as you get to the interface with, the senior vice president or the rest of the culture of the organization, they're like, yeah, not so much. We'll tell you what to do, and these are your deadlines, and yeah, your burn down rate, yeah, really don't care. Okay, you're going to give me these reports. So it's very difficult. Look, here's the thing. You don't need to wait till you're the quote boss to practice leadership. The number one thing is listen to the people around you, treat them with respect, work in your own organization, and with time, people will say, hey, how come everyone wants to go to Ron's group? Everyone wants to join Ron's group. Ron's group is outperforming every other. What's Ron doing differently? and then hopefully your organization will notice. But look, here's the point. They may never notice. They may never figure it out. It doesn't matter. You will know, and your people will know, and that's going to sustain you in the dark days. I don't think there's anybody in the United States Navy that knows that 10 guys were made captain from one submarine. Do I care? No. Why would I? I don't care.
Okay.
Take care of your people. That's it.
Okay. I've got another question before from the guys in our group. So we've now living in a more integrated world. People are more talking to each other over the internet, stuff like that. So how do you look at leadership in that perspective? It's one of the questions I got from one of the guys in the group. How does that work?
Yeah, I am personally very hopeful that, I mean, you have the 1984 Orwellian version of what technology is going to do to us. Because maybe I'm an optimist, I don't believe in that. I'm very hopeful that the spread of this technology is going to blow up a lot of these hierarchies, and it's going to empower people or give people the tools to exercise their natural human empowerment, and that the technology will be an enabling factor for what we need to do as a race.
Okay. So we had a nice situation before that. Indeed, it works if you have motivated people. The situation we had with the YouTube channel just not running, we actually saw it happening. If you engage people, that they really stand up and be a part of something.
Yeah,
imagine what would have happened if we had a hierarchical organization pushing this whole event. I think we would have canceled it. So yeah,
perfect example.
Totally agree with you. Yeah.
So I don't know if you have another one queued up there, Ron, but I have just a couple pictures I wanted to show. I mean,
continue.
This idea is very new in human history, that we actually are interested in people thinking. So this is a picture of some soldiers, Canadian soldiers in World War I. So this is about 100 years ago, about 3 generations ago. These people are the age of my great-grandparents. And you imagine, so let's say you're this officer back here, and you're in charge of these guys, right? You're not interested in them thinking, right? You want them to run out of this trench and run towards machine guns, right? Thinking is not going to be part of it. And then here's a factory in Philadelphia. This is essentially a generation later, and these people are making radios. But again, it's one big assembly line. We call it neck down. As long as this lady's hands are moving, we're happy. Leadership, and this work has changed, right? Your workplace does not look like this, but the leadership ideas that we have, that we teach at business schools, that people see in the popular movies, is a direct descendant of what's happening here, which is some boss in the back is going to tell people what to do, and leadership is about doing stuff. It's not about thinking, and it's not about giving people the ability to see the potential greatness inside of them. So this is a very, very, very difficult challenge that we're up against. Because of that cultural mindset. I'm not hearing Ron. Ron, you still here?
Sorry for that, I muted my microphone. Another question I got from the group was, do you have suggestions for helping other leaders in this group, except from doing the same stuff you already just told, but how can I help other leaders improving their group behavior? Because what you typically see is that old-fashioned, yeah, I'm in my position, but what if I wanted to go step up to those guys and tell them, help me in getting the group better and help me get champions in my group instead of command and controlling them in the organizations?
Yeah, so I switched back to, sorry, slides. I'm not sure if this is exactly going to answer it, but when I work with organizations, we have two basic approaches that we use. One is this idea, one is sort of an interpersonal approach. This is how you talk to the people around you. And we use this framework of a ladder, and you listen to your people. You may hear a lot of this, tell me what to do. Sometimes it's disguised. People say, you know, do you want me to do that? Do you agree with this? They try and hook you into saying, yeah, and absolving them of the responsibility of their decisions. So down here at the bottom of the ladder, ownership is with the boss, zero ownership in the employee, zero passion, zero thinking on the employee side. And so you just move people up the ladder. So someone comes, well, what do you want me to do? Well, what do you think? Or what do you see? Well, if you were me, what would you do? So that's one framework you can use. The other framework is, I'm going to skip down here. The other framework goes like this. I call it move authority to information, not information to authority. And what happens is every organization looks like this. We have information at the front lines down here at the bottom. These people actually know what's going on. They're the coders or whatnot. And then the authority's up at top. And so we're going to push information to the boss. They're going to make a decision, and then it comes back down. Then we do a reorg because we don't like what's going on, and it looks exactly the same, right? So this guy's now over here, and this guy's over here, and this guy's now over here. But the fundamental approach of the organization in terms of how they handle information is the same. And so what I suggest, and I think Agile is basically doing this, is let's push the authority to where the information already lives, because then you eliminate the delay and the distortion that occurs the other way around. And, oh, by the way, now these people have meaning in their life, they're making decisions that matter, and they're affecting their work, and their work improves. And as a bonus, we know from scientific research that their health actually improves when they feel they have more control. So, you know, create networks of like-minded people. I've given up on trying to convince people about this. All I say now is, if you are interested in moving in this direction, I can help you. If you don't think this way already, what can I do? So find networks of allies who already think this way. Share best practices in terms of what actually are we doing in the company. What are we doing? We're practicing empathy. How? Everybody in the company has to handle customer service tickets. Okay, great. We're building trust. How? We're creating talking partners where pairs of people talk to each other, and then when they do one, then they graduate to groups of four. So it's easy to say, oh, let's all give power to the people, but I think where leaders can help each other is in the actual, how are you doing it? What's the mechanism? We took away square tables, small square tables, and we put big round tables. Whatever it is.
And you applied this as well in your time in the Navy. So you also went to colleagues and started sharing, and they had adopted those kind of leadership styles.
You know what? I did a bad job of that. I was not that good at doing that. I was so sort of wrapped up in not crashing my submarine that I didn't do a very good job with that. At the same time, people didn't seem that curious about what we were doing. What they saw was the performance of the submarine went way up, and within a year we were getting the highest grades and inspections, and we had the highest retention. But what I think most people think is they just think, well, he's just giving really good orders, right? He's just really giving good orders. We went from a guy who gave bad orders to a guy who gave good orders, so therefore things are going really well. They're not thinking he actually stopped giving orders.
Yeah. So I think you already answered the question, Sam Lee, because I've already got a question on how do you want to scale this way of thinking. Since we're in Stoos and we're trying to convince the world that there's a different way of leadership. What's your vision on that? How should we do it? You already mentioned networking and showing what you're doing, but Any other thoughts on that?
I think the trick is you have to tap the pain. Okay, you have to tap people's pain point. No one's going to change if it's not painful. So where's the pain? I see pain in two places. First, employees and the subordinates have pain because they hate going to work. They don't love their jobs. They take the toxins from work home, and they're hating their lives. They don't feel fulfilled. They don't get to think. They don't get to be creative. They don't get to express the full potential of being a human being on the planet. So there's pain there. So you can tap that pain. The second thing is, though, bosses aren't very happy either because they don't understand. They're saying, well, I'm doing leadership. I'm doing it more and more. I'm giving more and more instructions. I'm giving better and better instructions. They don't understand that that's the problem, that their whole mindset about leadership is wrong. So they say, I'm giving all these instructions, but my people, where's their ownership? Where's their passion? Where's their creativity? And the people are like, you've been beating it out of us. What do you think? And so I think the key is to tap the pain points, find the people who say, there's pain in my brain, and I'm going to do something about it. And then say, look, here's a different thing. It's not like, sometimes we use the analogy of the map, right? We're driving around Chicago, but we have a map in New York City. I can read the map faster, I could put it upside down, I could study it better, whatever. It's not going to help. We got the wrong map. You got to show people, look, there's a whole different map over here. But it starts with the pain.
So make them feel the pain if it's not there. There's always pain, probably. That's what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying they are already feeling the pain, right? First of all, we know from employee engagement surveys, at least here in the United States, that there's a lot of pain in the workforce. Most people don't love their job. Most people aren't engaged in their job. So there's a lot of pain at that level. But bosses also aren't very happy. Bosses come to me and say, my people don't have passion, ownership, they don't have, they're not acting like owners of the business. They're competing against each other, and I want them to operate like a team. No one has any ideas but me. I'm the only guy thinking around here. And so there's pain there, too. That's the pain you tap to get the boss to say, well, maybe you should try this. Stop telling them what to do.
Okay. I think one of the things is that on Twitter, probably people also can react on this stuff. I've not been following it around, so what we can do is see if we can find some Twitter messages there and see if we can go through them. Not really. So I'm a little bit running dry now with the questions from my group. So any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, so I guess my question to the group is kind of what goes like this. What do you guys see is the problem? And what's preventing us from moving forward? Because my experience is it's clearly a better way to live your life, and it's a better way to lead people.
Yeah, so that might be a good suggestion also to do the open space later on, where we have sessions like this. That's a very good open question that we can put there. Is if you look at our environment, how are we going to do this? Can we apply this in the same way? I mean, I'm convinced that if you could do it in a naval submarine, we can do it in our organizations as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So here, let me tell another story, and let me ask your people a question. Okay. So here I'm going to go back to my slides for a second. So here's the story. This story takes place in 1963. And, oh, by the way, that's Fukushima. So in Fukushima, they had this problem where the guys on the ground knew what the right answer was, but they didn't have the authority to vent the reactor vessels. That was only the CEO of the company, and they couldn't talk to the CEO because the phone lines were down, so we ended up with an explosion. So I'm going to go, okay, so here's the story. 1963, Princeton Theological Seminary. So these people are people studying to be theologians and religious scholars. and they're signing up for a study. They think they're signing up for a study to give a talk. Half of them are giving a talk about the Good Samaritan. But what they're really doing is they're going to go to one room and get directions to go to a different room. And on the way from the first room to the second room, they're going to have to essentially step over a person in distress. A person who's sort of shabbily dressed person lying on the floor, propped up against the wall, who's coughing. Right? And they're going to give talks. Half of them are going to give a talk on the Good Samaritan. So you sort of see the connection here. So as they brought people in, one group they said, oh, hey, you have plenty of time, but you might as well go on over now. Well, 63% of those people stopped and helped this person in distress. The next group, they said, oh, if you leave right now, you'll make it. But you really need to hurry. And 45% of those people helped this person in distress. The last group, they said, oh, you're already late. They've been expecting you. And so the question is, what percent of those people do you think stopped and helped this person in distress? So, Ron, give me just pull your group and just sort of take 10 seconds and then let me know what you think.
My group is in a different room, but I see some running. Yeah, 5. Okay.
5%.
Sorry?
5%.
5%. They say.
Yeah.
5%.
Answer is 10%. Now these are all the same people, okay?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're all the same group of people. They're all learning to be seminarians.
Yeah.
And how much does this happen to us where we, just because we feel a little bit of a rush or a little sense of urgency, and that's right when one of my coworkers comes up and says, hey, I got a problem, my kid's sick, I got to go home. And we're like, oh, for crying out loud, but here's a bigger lesson. The bigger lesson is that the environment matters a lot. There's no such thing as people who just want to be told what to do. There's no such people as generous people. There's no such thing as evil-spirited people. There are people with a more or less propensity to be generous, just like there's the people with more or less propensity to help a person in distress. But it's the person plus the environment. That combination is what results in the behavior. And the good news is you can affect the environment. That's your job as the leader.
Okay, good tip as well. Yeah. I think we have time left for one more question. So something came in via a reporter on Twitter, Eleanor, with a question. Could you talk a little bit more on the power on the edge? So I guess that means power on the outside.
Right. So I show the picture of pushing authority down to where the information lives. Okay, so imagine you're in an organization and you have people who are at, it's either the interface with nature. Let's say you're running a power plant, so it's the interface with nature. You have your software, so it's the interface with the code. The guy's actually coding. You're running a hotel chain. It's the interface with the client, the front desk manager. Okay, so those people at the interface know what's going on. We want them, okay, to make decisions. We want to give them the authority, but we're scared that it's going to be chaotic. So the solution there is to make sure that they know their jobs, not to the degree that, say, if I give you an instruction, you can follow it, but they actually can figure out what needs to happen. And the second thing is there has to be an organizational clarity in that they need to understand the purpose of what we're trying to do. And the one question that, just to get that whole purpose question started, is what's the time frame over which you're optimizing your decision? Is it 5 seconds? Is it a quarter? Is it this week? Is it a quarter century? And that will crystallize the discussion on the difference between where people are making these decisions. So, in short, look, I think what you're all doing is awesome. It's unlikely that I'm part of it, but I'm thrilled to be part of it. And as a reform control freak, I can tell you are on the right path. Stick to your guns. Let's keep the revolution going. Let's keep moving forward. Thank you
That's
very much.
Great final conclusion. Thank you, David. I think we'll go back to the studio now.
Where's the sound effects when you need them, man?
That is true. We have some sound effects. We can try to find them. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so here's the deal. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, David and Ron, for that session. There is a limit as to how long an air session can be, and that's 90 minutes. So this live feed will be terminating. A new one has been put up on the website. It's on the top. It says 5 o'clock CET. So, and because we have a 55-second delay, we are going to hold off a few minutes until these words reach you, and then we are going to start the new Hangout, the new Live on Air featuring Nadia. And one more thing, keep sending in questions with your Twitter accounts. So use the Stoos in Action hashtag and ask questions. We have a reporter on the in the field who will be picking up these questions and put them forward to the speakers. So we are going to shut down here this on-air event. Go to the stoosinaction.com website. On the front page, on the dashboard, on top, you will find a link to the second session, which will be running in a few minutes. So see you all there.